Boom. All right. Welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Saturday. Thanks for showing up to the corner. Um, yes, that is still the Pay It Forward intro because we have not quite finished out the 2025 season. We're going to have the big Ship Hope coming up here at the end of March. So the next show we'll still be doing the Pay It Forward to promote the Soar and Restore here at the Phoenix Warehouse in West Berlin, New Jersey, and that will be March 26th and 27th. So, anyway, we are changing things up, as you guys know, on the corner. We're going to be doing a new intro. We're going to have a new intro sound and song, and the new logo and all of that stuff you might have seen on Instagram earlier. That being said, tonight is going to be a little bit different. My guest, we normally will do the mental floss and we'll play a little segment and whatnot. This entire episode for me is going to be a mental floss. There are few people in this universe that I encounter that I admire as much as the guest that we have coming up. I think that he and I have eaten a lot of the same dirt, and I am really, really excited to get into it with him. Police, fire, and EMS professionals experience disproportionately high rates of post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, suicidal ideations, and suicide compared to most professions. And in many years, officer suicides outnumber in-line duty deaths. That's not a statistic made to shock. It's really just meant to wake people up to what's going on. When people hear stories about post-traumatic stress or addictions, they often imagine some single moment where everything falls apart. But that's rarely how life actually happens. Most of the time, it is not point A to point B. It's point A to point B to point C to point D. And the next thing you know, you're in point X and you're just like, how the hell did I get here? And what is happening? It's one bad call. It's one long night. It's one supervisor that doesn't have your back. That one moment where the public you're trying to protect looks at you and says, I hate cops. Or in my situation, I wasn't professional as I was saving somebody's life. So welcome to the corner, everybody. Without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest, Keith Shibley, up to the stage. He is a decorated police officer, works for the FBI task force. He has gone to hell and back, and he has a story, and I want you to hear it with me. Welcome to the show, Keith. Welcome to the corner.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
This is really, really exciting for me. I think that I wanted to say right out of the gate that I have a tremendous respect for the Blue. Phoenix backs the Blue. I thank you for your service. Thank you for your dedication to your community. And what it took me doing the homework for this show to really wrap my head around something like the biggest difference between EMS and police. My wife loves watching all of those crime shows and crime documentaries and serial killers this and serial killers that and so on and so forth. And I don't usually pay it any mind. The biggest difference between police and EMS is a lot of the times we get to walk away from it. Where police, especially investigators like yourself, you have to sit in that crime scene and you have to sit and study the carnage that is left behind. And I've listened to a whole lot of your interviews that you've given at the Boneyard and with Bick, at the Suffering podcast and your YouTube channel as well. And there are a lot of very similar situations that you've encountered, like the milestones that kind of break away your humanity a little bit. Mm-hmm. I've seen the exact same thing. So there's those coincidences, and then there's also, like, for example, you said that car crashes kind of hit you the hardest. Where for me, car crashes was just a daily occurrence, and
Mhm.
it's either you live or you're dead, and I'm
Yeah.
moving. So anyway, without further ado, I'd really like to just kind of turn this the opener over to you, and it's kind of dive right in. We talked backstage about where we were at and
Yeah.
how we got there, and I'd like to kind of hear your point A to point B to point C to point D to point X.
I mean, I think first of all, talking about like trauma, and I did this myself. It's being in law enforcement, I've seen a lot of traumatic things, but a lot of people they trauma compare, right? They'd be like, well, my life it wasn't as bad as that, or I never saw that. So they're like, they don't like to speak up about it because they don't think their trauma is great enough to talk about, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So, but I mean, trauma is just trauma, dude. Whether it's you're in the middle of a war, or you're EMS, or you're a business worker, but one of your coworkers had a heart attack in front of you. Your worst day is your worst day, no matter how bad it is. And your worst day on your brain does the exact same thing. So um, I try to get people to stop doing like the trauma compare, because I did that a long time. I mean, I can wrap off a dozen people that have done and seen more, 10 times more than I ever have. Um, and that's what I would do, is like trauma compare. That's why it's easy for us, especially men, to hold that stuff in, because you don't think it's bad enough, and therefore you're embarrassed to talk about it, if that
Right.
makes sense to you,
Sure.
But yeah, man, we're gonna start off like police wise, kid wise. I guess
Well, and so listening to other interviews, there are definitely, like, again, we're talking about milestones that kind of set
okay,
the stage
yeah,
for where we end up, right? So, I mean, you don't have to get into the meat, the weeds with it, but if you wanted to kind of give a real quick, like, how do we get to point X? Because it's not, again, it's not a singularity moment. It's not
right,
something like this just happened to me, so now all of a sudden I'm going to turn to the bottle. It
yeah,
is like, just get worn down. I mean, I know exactly where things happen for me. I
yeah,
didn't drink when I in the beginning, especially in my first marriage, we didn't drink at all. And it wasn't until I went through the divorce and, ended up being homeless and without my kid. And it was just kind of like, I have to do something to stop the demons from just, like, if I don't pass out right now, I'm probably going to do something stupid. And I do remember at one point, oh, God, I remember having a picture of my 4-year-old son in one hand and a revolver in my other hand.
hmm yeah.
That didn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. I guess the one example I give is I had a great family. I have a great family: mom, dad, brother, two sisters, all very close. We're Lebanese descent, and so we were raised like in an old school Middle Eastern Catholic household. Um, dad went to work, mom stayed home, took care of the house. Growing up, my dad was a pharmacist. Um, he bought his own pharmacy. I don't know, maybe I was in the third grade, second grade. Um, 6 days a week, about 12, 14 hours a day. So I saw dad Sundays, usually was his
Sure.
day off. And it was, just seeing that, it already imprinted in my brain is as a father, and as a man, as the head of the household, your sole purpose is to provide for your family. That was what was in my head, just watching that. And he had us working at a very young age. On the weekends, you're 12, 13, we're stocking shelves and cleaning and doing all that kind of stuff. Um, but it was pretty, I mean, it was just a pretty old school traditional family. My mom's father, I was very close to. Um, and he knew that me and my brother loved to fish. So we were going to look for a river house. I think it was on the Rappahannock River. He knew a lady that had a house down there. So we went and looked at some properties and stayed, the day at her house afterwards. And me and my brother were fishing, and he comes down and it's about lunchtime or whatever, and he was just like, he said, it's lunchtime. You boys ain't catching shit. Let's go get something to eat. So we're all laughing and whatever. And I was 12. My brother was 13. And, me and him, he was walking right by my side, walking up. There's a pretty steep hill walking up there to the house. And about a quarter way up the hill, he just took like 2 steps, fell to his knees, face planted on the ground, rolled him over. My brother comes up and he's got, the blue face, no oxygen, whatever. I was 12. So I freaked out. I ran into the house and told my dad, and my uncle was there too. And they called EMS. We were out in the middle of nowhere. EMS took about 30 minutes to get there. But there was nothing they could do. He passed away that day. But I remember, I was just very upset and emotional. My first experience with any kind of death, and it was somebody that I was very, very close to. So I was crying. And yeah, man, my dad came up just being like the old school men don't cry mentality. And he kind of snatched me up and he just said, turn that shit off right now. You need to be strong for your mother and your sisters. And it was just like, it was, it was off, and it stayed off for many a decades, because at that age, it kind of imprinted in my brain that, men don't show emotion. Emotion is weakness. If you really need to show emotion, you go in a closet or a bathroom or somewhere where nobody can see you and do it, and then you come back out. But so that was, that was just kind of, I guess, the first building block to putting the walls up in my life, I guess. So, I had a great childhood, man. Unlike kids today, played outside a lot. You were gone all day. Your parents didn't really care where you were as long as you were home by dinner.
We're pretty close to the same age, right? I'm 51. I think you're in your 40s.
48. Yeah.
40. Yeah. I figured we were close from the stories that I heard. We're pretty there. And my son is 1 year older than your son. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's another kids. That's a whole nother live there. But I had a very close family. Like, my dad's one of 5, my mom's one of 4. Each one of my aunts and uncles had at least 3 kids. All of us, we were all lived in Richmond, Virginia. We were all very, very close. So it was a great childhood, man. Growing up, my parents said I always wanted to be a cop, and I don't even know why. I wasn't good at school, man. Me and academics didn't get along very well. And I think I know now, I'm pretty sure I have a learning disability. I write numbers backwards. Yeah. I mean, if you give me like 5 pages to read and I'm not interested in it, I will read it and then have no clue what the hell I just read. It just nothing sticks. But I think one of my teachers in middle school mentioned that, but being, the old school people my parents was, we are not getting him tested. He's fine. He needs to work harder.
Exactly.
Was what exactly. It was. So I studied my ass off for C's and D's, man. I did. I was not good at school. Played a lot of sports, loved it. That was kind of the first. Football was the best sport I was in, or I was the best at. But it was like the whole teamwork thing, man. And I really dug that stuff. But for some reason, I wanted to be a cop. That's the only thing I've ever really thought about doing. And now I wish I'd set my goals higher, but I lived my life to try to achieve that goal. Right. So in high school and stuff, alcohol in my family wasn't a big deal. I was 13, 14, drinking beers at family functions and out in the open. I wasn't even hiding it. Nobody really cared. And in high school, my house was the house. You could come to my house and, after a football game, 5 of us would come to my house. My dad would take everybody's keys and we go out in the backyard and just drink beer. Put up a bonfire, drink some beer or whatever. And I think their mentality is, I'd rather them do it here than do it somewhere else and try to drive home. And at least we can kind of control it. But alcohol was never frowned upon. They didn't buy it for us and they didn't promote,
right.
Us drinking, but they knew it was going to happen. So, but the one thing I didn't do is drugs, man. In high school, I it was all my friends group was like, we'd go out to a party or whatever. And a lot of people tried to get me to smoke weed, and I just wouldn't do it. Cause in the 90s, that was frowned upon for police applications. I've smoked weed twice. I did it my senior year with a new girlfriend because she smoked weed, because we do dumb shit for women.
Oh yeah, the power of the P is
got it. Yeah. So so that was it, man. I went to college. I went to an all-male military high school in Richmond. So then, you get cut loose to college, and it was just kind of like, I went to Marshall University, man. And I remember, I think it was like my second day, some guy comes up to me and I said, like, "Hey, man, you want to go to a bar?" And I'm like, "I'm 18, man." And he goes, "Okay." And I'm like, "I don't have a fake ID." And he's like, "You're in Huntington, West Virginia, dude. Nobody gives a shit." I'm like, "Get out of here." And it was surrounding that school, man. There was probably 40 bars, and you could get into at least 20 of them, no questions asked. So, I did the college thing. I tried I tried my best. Didn't get great grades. But I didn't go out every night. I partied like a normal college kid. Thursday night, Friday night, tailgating at the Marshall football games, that kind of stuff. But school wasn't. I wasn't doing well. I met my future wife at Marshall, and she was a year ahead of me. So after 2 years, I pretty much stopped going to class. I was bartending at the time, making some pretty good money. And she graduated, and she was from Northern Virginia, the DC area. But before she graduated, I was taking criminal justice classes, and I remember this one police recruiter came in. He was like, "If this is what you want to do, why are you wasting your money on college?" I was like, "I don't." He goes, "You don't need a college degree for this." So I went and took my first police test was Lexington, Kentucky, PD. And I took the written test, passed it, did the physical, passed it, went to the oral interview. I guess I didn't do so well. But then again, 97-ish, 97, 98, I think they had over 500 applicants for 2 spots. Like, people were still wanting to do this job back then. So I didn't get hired, but that just kind of lit the bug of I don't need school type stuff. So when my wife graduated, she moved back to Northern Virginia. I moved back to Richmond, and was just working some construction stuff, bartending on the weekends, and just applying to different police departments. And I had an application in for the airport authority up here in the Northern Virginia area, and I got picked up for an academy class right after 9/11. So moved up to Northern Virginia, man, got an apartment. My soon-to-be wife moved in, did the 6 months in the academy, and I loved it, man. It was like I reached my goal. Like, I was excited about it.
Sure.
The academics weren't even an issue because I was interested in all that stuff. So I kind of picked it up. So right after the academy, man, got engaged, and I got assigned out to the Dulles Airport, which is the bigger of the 2 that we do. And I wanted that one because there's in between Dulles and Reagan, we have a long stretch of highway, 4 lanes going each way, that you patrol, and it's one of the main highways coming out of DC that you could get your pretty good stops on. So I was excited. Went to the 12 weeks of field training, did good, and then I was cut loose on my own, and I worked a lot of overtime right away because I love the job. I was getting married. I was trying to get a bankroll up, and I think I was like 3 months into being solo patrol by myself. I stopped the car. The car was weaving in and out of traffic. It was going like half the speed limit. So it was going like 30 and a 55. And I went to the window. The kid was hammered. He had liquid on his shirt. His fly was unbuttoned. Glass, all the telltale signs of a DUI. So I pull him out. I give him field sobriety. He fails miserably. Offer him a preliminary breath test, and he blew I don't remember, 2.5, 2.6. He was up there. So, I handcuff him, tell him he's under arrest for driving under the influence. Backup officer shows up, and a sergeant ended up showing up because he was just passing by. And back then, we didn't have a lot of cage cars, so we would transport the prisoner in the front passenger seat with us. And I remember that's where we keep like our duty bags and stuff. So I remember telling him, I was like, hey, can you watch him? I need to go clear out my front seat so I can put him in the car. And the backup officer acknowledged it, and the sergeant went up to do the inventory of his vehicle so we could tow it. I walked back to my car. I opened the passenger door and I grabbed my bag. And as soon as I did, I just kind of saw a flash, and I looked up, and this kid was in handcuffs behind his back, and he's looking left down the highway, and an 18-wheeler's coming, and he just jumps. And he mistimed it a little bit. He didn't jump. He didn't get hit head on, but he jumped and hit the side of it, which was, he kind of just leapt into it, man. It was a car carrier, one of those big car carriers. And that thing launched him about 50 feet, ripped him out of his shoes.
Yeah, we had a kid do that with a train. Same thing. Missed in front of the train, but they have like those little plates that come out, and it just shredded him.
It was a pretty gory, bloody scene, man. But he was still breathing. So, shut down traffic, call everybody. They show up. Some kind of directed traffic. EMS is working on them. They call Life Flight to come land a helicopter to take them to the Fairfax Hospital. But a trooper pulls up, and he was like, he goes, hey, young fella, whose traffic stop was this? I was like, Bond. And he's like, your career's fucked. And he walked away, and I'm like, shit, man. That was a pretty quick police career I had.
Yeah.
So, I started thinking that, and then ended up getting to the hospital, and the kid ended up living. I ended up talking to his parents, and they were as nice as can be, man. They weren't mad. They didn't say any negative stuff, but the kid was special needs, and I didn't know it. I thought he was just severely intoxicated, but I think he had Asperger's or severely autistic or something. But they told me that when people used to bully him, he would run headfirst into walls and knock himself out. So I kind of put the puzzle piece together of why he jumped in front of the truck. But, I went home early the next morning, and it was just, I couldn't get it out of the impact part. I couldn't get it out. And then seeing him with just laying there. I mean, it looked like his calf looked like a chicken breast on the side of the road. It was, so it bothered me, man. And then knowing that
that was your first exposure to a real trauma, a human being meat sack.
Yeah, but it was, it was a little different for the fact that he was special needs. After someone's placed under arrest, you are responsible for them. So it was my responsibility. And I just put all that on me. You know what I mean? So it bothered me, man. I remember it bothered me for days. I wasn't sleeping too good. And who are you going to tell? I'm a rookie police officer. I'm not going to go into work and tell people that it bothered me. I'm not going to call anybody. I'm just going to shove it down and just go back to work. And, you get back to work, and all the dark humor in first responder world sets off.
Oh yeah. The gallows humor is the only way to survive. And it's just,
there's an 18-wheeler Matchbox car on my locker with a little G.I. Joe like stuck in it and shit. But that was just my first experience that I can remember. And, eventually you shove it down far enough where it doesn't bother you anymore. But that was it, man. And, there were several of those while I was there. I'm questioning myself.
It's crazy how, like, you and how first responders have the ability to compartmentalize all of that stuff. I mean, one of 40,000 images that are in my head that, your brain, you're not meant to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we had a minivan that had turned over and basically just kind of grated the half of this dude's face off. And he looked just like Two-Face. This side of his head was perfectly fine, and this side was just skull.
Yeah.
it was what, you know what I mean? And it's just like,
So my old partner, Shay, that I'll talk about him later, but he was one that went to the Navy Yard with me. He put it very, I've never heard it put like this, and it's true. As soon as you become a first responder or you're in the military, it's like a credit card, man. And everything you see is another charge, a charge on your credit
wow.
card. And if you don't pay your bill for 20 years, when the bill collector comes, it's going to suck. I guess that's what I'm trying to do with like speaking out about it is I'm trying to teach the younger guys to pay that bill monthly, dude, pay it monthly. So, that big bill you can't even pay doesn't come after, 10, 15 years.
It's an incredible way to put that. You're at 100% right. And, you can go to like, CISM.
I love it. Yeah.
But I mean, like, it was just part of the job. It's like, am I gonna go to CISM every single time? That critical incident, what does it stand for? Critical incident stress management or something like that. I forget what the acronym is, but you can't do that every single job. And I mean, in every single day, we were encountering, like, we were like my main squad. We were on the corners of 295, 206. Route 70. So I mean, we got all kinds of everything every single day, and from trailer parks all the way to the Section 8 housing. We saw it all. What are you gonna do? How do you?
Yeah.
Here's a question for you: how do you pay that credit card bill every month? Because I certainly didn't know how to.
Honestly, right now, like our peer support team back then was kind of non-existent. And now all of our peer support, we got about 20 people, and people are system trained and all that stuff. And we take it seriously. We sign documentation saying, if you tell me something and I go spread it to the rest of the department, I can be held liable. Virginia actually passed a law saying that you can be held liable for that too. So we take it seriously, man. And I just encourage people to pick up the phone. If you have a really bad one, sometimes just talking about it will help you. I had a rookie officer a couple years ago that went to a fatal accident and a suicide, like back to back. And next day he came up to me. He's like, "Can I talk to you?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." And we sat down and talked about it. And that's unheard of 20 years ago. 2 years on, you'd never get a guy that's 20 years on and tell him that stuff bothered you. But I think that's what we need, man. We need to be able to if it's just, and I'll get to it with the DCA plane helicopter crash, man. Maybe you just need to sit at a table with a cup of coffee and just shoot the shit about it, just to kind of just release the pressure valve a little bit.
Yeah.
To let you know that other people feel the same way, and you're not crazy for having those kind of emotions, having to deal with something like that. But that, and honestly, man, like I would have laughed at you even 8 years ago if you told me I was going to be seeing a therapist and like it. But
yeah,
I mean, I think the way we have medical exams, physical exams every year, running on a treadmill, testing your heart, lung capacity, height, weight, blood, all that stuff. Why don't we have that once a year for mental health, man? We got to take a psych and everything to get hired onto a police department. So, I mean, I don't know why we don't have that every year where you go, sit and talk to a therapist at least. And when I get to the FBI part, like when I was doing undercover work, that was mandatory every 6 months. You had to go see a therapist, and you had to go see an agent who was undercover as well, and then you had to go see a therapist. But even back then, I didn't want to be truthful to them.
Yeah, I mean, the question that I have somebody that doesn't want to talk to. There's somebody in my orbit that doesn't want to talk to a therapist or a counselor or a psychiatrist because if they say the wrong thing, they could be flagged, and therefore, their potential for their career is over. Yeah. So, like the system is already rigged against you to open up like that.
Yeah.
Is that would you say that's kind of accurate in where you're at?
So this is the thing with that is I'd be hesitant to tell the department psych that. I would find an independent therapist outside of whether you got to pay for it or not.
Right.
I trust the one I had for. I said some stuff that might get me put on the sidelines if they found out about it. But if you find one outside of that kind of work network that you can trust, it helps. And just like it doesn't even really have to be a therapist. It could just be, you or whoever
Sure.
is in their circle. Because one of the best things that I'll get to in a few minutes during my addiction part is the sponsor I have knows more about me than my wife, man. I tell that dude everything. And just having some guy that's older than me with life experience that has been kind of in the same place I have, that I can call up anytime, any day of the week, I could say whatever to and know that it's not going anywhere, has been probably one of the best things about all this process for me. I tell that guy some stuff, and you think like people are going to look down on you, and usually he has a story worse than mine. So it's we get along really well. But
that's awesome.
But yeah, man, it's you could find. I think if you could probably find somebody that you could trust, whether it's a therapist or not, to kind of get that stuff out, because it's just building pressure, man. It's going to blow at some point,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I mean, and I have counseled her to the point of like you need, this is going to, it might, like you said, the credit card debt, you might not have to, it might not be that much right now, but I can tell that in 10 years, it's going to break you, and you need to face that demon sooner than later. Okay. So so that
was just like my first experience with it.
And there's no way that anybody can train you for that, right? There's no schooling. There's like, we went to EMT school, and no one's ever said to me, hey, by the way, you're going to be looking at somebody's graded face. Enjoy that for the rest of your life.
And, really thinking about it now, like, I think something was wrong with you if it didn't bother you. If that shit doesn't bother you, it's not, like you said, it's not normal. And my partner Shay, he's gone through some stuff too, and I actually got to interview him a couple weeks ago on the Mind Over Madness YouTube thing that me and my partner Loomis do. But he was like, man, we used to sit around and talk and laugh about stuff and say, is this normal? And he would say, yeah, it's normal, but we're talking to each other. You go out and tell somebody that doesn't do this job that stuff, they would look at us like we were absolutely freaking nuts, because the stuff we were seeing and doing, it's just not, it's not normal for you to do on like a long-term basis. But I was in my 20s though, man, and I kind of I wanted to get in more. I wanted to do the stuff I saw on television growing up, right? So the Port Authority was cool, but like I wanted to get into it. So I convinced my wife to move to Richmond, where I grew up. It's cheaper cost of living. We were going to get married, start a family. So she agreed, and I applied to the Richmond City Police Department and got hired down there in 03, 04. And man, I was a police officer for 2 years already. I thought I knew what I was doing. That there was a whole new experience, man. They put the new officers in the hot spots. So it was a happening little city. We, I guess we averaged about 100 murders a year back then. Then you had all your gamut of robbery, rape, car wrecks, all that kind of stuff. So, for your 20s, it was pretty enjoyable. But like kind of like, I guess, in EMS, you saw carnage on a daily basis there. And for some reason, you talked about compartmentalizing things. Murders didn't bother me much. I think it was because, like, you knew most of them. Like, that guy was selling dope there yesterday, and now he's dead. It's part of selling dope or being in a gang. The few kind of, I don't know, innocent's the wrong word to use, but the few abnormal murders that I saw, they would stick with you. But anything having to do with a child is just, that's a whole different ball game, man. And I went to, let me back up 1 second. At the Port Authority and in Richmond, drinking in law enforcement was a commonplace. We had choir practice, is what we called it. And what it was after our shifts, we would just sit in the parking lot and drink beer and decompress. And, you know, I guess just kind of hang out. But it became, so like in high school and college where drinking was a weekend thing, it became more of a routine thing. Definitely not just a weekend thing. And we wouldn't get hammered. I know all the comments were like, cops are going to drink and drive every night. We were having like two.
Right.
But it just became more of a, drinking became more of a normal thing. When you had a great day at work, you had a celebratory beer. When you had a shitty day at work, you had to have a beer. So Richmond was the same thing, man. Was it Force? Whatever. One of the diners was open 24 hours. They would have
alcohol. Called it Third Street Diner.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. They would have alcohol specials for breakfast because all like the cops and firefighters and Medical College of Virginia's there. So all the doctors and nurses would come there and it would be packed and we would all have, breakfast and drink. My wife was a teacher. So usually by the time I worked either 7 or 8 p.m. to 7 or 8 a.m., 12-hour shifts. So by the time I got home, she was gone. So there was no reason to rush home. So, if people were going out to have a couple drinks, I was definitely going with them. But I got a call one day it was a car wreck into a house, man. And I get there and the car had rolled up into the house. It was just left and drive. It wasn't like a bad wreck, but it was July and the windows were rolled up and the car was turned off. And I look in the back seat, there was a toddler in the back seat. And you could just tell from looking through the window that toddler had been in there way too long. More than likely nothing I could do about it. But, you break the window, you open the car, and that baby had been in there for a long time. It had definitely been deceased for a little bit, a couple of hours.
We had one of those.
That one just hit different, man. It was
the only thing I could think of was seeing my son. That's the only. Yeah. As soon as that happened, I was just like, I got to get out of here. I got to go see. I have to tangibly hold Jacob to know that this fate didn't happen to him.
I luckily did not have my son yet, but I do remember, like, the guys were like, "Hey, shit, we're gonna hit the diner, man. Rough night." I'm like, "Yeah, it was," but I didn't want to go, man. I didn't want to hang out with him. I didn't. I was like, I just want to go the fuck home. And I went home, and I got that's the first time I can remember getting plastered by myself at 8:00 in the morning, man. I remember I just pulled out the bottle of Jack Daniels, man, and got wasted because I wanted to turn the brain off. I didn't want to think about it. I wanted to go to sleep. I was exhausted. So that was the first time that happened. And there was a few more instances down there where it was kind of the same thing, man. And the other thing that people don't really, sometimes it's not the car wreck or the murder. It's the notification. Those notifications, man, the handful of times I've done it, you don't stop hearing that shit. There was one where my partner and I were chasing it was a pickup truck, and they were going the wrong way down Jeff Davis Highway, which is a 3-lane road. I think it's 45 miles an hour each way. This dude was doing about a 75, and we couldn't catch up to him. We were finally we saw him. We were starting to catch up to him. And he crests a hill and comes down. And as we come up on the hill, you just see it. He hit a Mustang head on. It was 4th of July weekend. He hit a Mustang head on, and it was a red Mustang, and it was 3 teenage girls in there. 2 17-year-olds and a 15-year-old in the back. The 15-year-old and the 17-year-old driver were sisters. And that car was this big. There was, and of course the drunk guy was perfectly fine. Head on. I got in a little bit of trouble that time because as I was running up and like EMS was like, hold his neck. I said, fuck his neck. I said, I will strangle that dude if I don't care about that dude's neck. But as we're working the accident scene, you know how you get your your onlookers.
Mm-hmm.
So like Jeff Davis Street, but there's a neighborhood right here, and all these people came up because I guess there was a party. These people sat there and watched us work that accident for over an hour. And then we finally got to identify them to go make notifications. They were watching their own kids and they had no idea that it was their car. That's how mangled the car was.
Oh my God.
So you go over there and tell a mother and a father that their 15-year-old and 17-year-old are no longer with us. That's just, you don't forget that shit. That stuff plays over in your brain. Just the notification part. The screams are gut wrenching, man. So that stuff is all just charged to the account. And my medicine for those kind of days was alcohol. It is. It wasn't every day. I wasn't like getting hammered every day, but on bad days, it was alcohol. I put myself in a situation I shouldn't have as a, bulletproof 20-some-year-old cop. And I got my ass kicked pretty good. And I had just had my son. Got my ass kicked pretty good in an illegal bar in the middle of the city. I went in by myself, which was not smart. And I learned a valuable lesson. But
I mean, in your defense, you were trying to prevent a stabbing.
The call came out
stabbing. The
call came out as a stabbing, and my backup was working overtime and usually works headquarters, and I guess got lost. So, I went in there. It was no stabbing, but I was talking to the guy that owns the house. This other guy came up right here, and I pushed him away. I was like, man, get the fuck away from me. And then I turned my back, and Heineken right over the back of the head, and the fight was on. So I had to get a couple staples in the head, and then my thumb popped out where I had to get the ligaments reattached. So I had to have a surgery. And my wife, she didn't like Richmond. She just didn't like it. She's a Montessori school teacher. There was no Montessori schools down there. They're in every corner in Northern Virginia. But so there was some other stuff going on that I'll get into one day, but at work. But she was ready to move back up to Northern Virginia. Her mom's up here. Her sisters are up here, all that stuff. So I said, I had my fun for a handful of years, and I agreed to move back. So I called the Port Authority back in 2008, I think. And I said, hey, can I get my job back? We're moving back. And they were like, absolutely. So I went right back to where I started, man, working at Dulles, working the highway, doing all that fun stuff. But in 2010, a detective's job opened up, and I put in for that, and I got it. And it was for it was a detective assigned to the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force out of Washington, D.C. Somehow I finagled my way into that position, and man, I loved it. I had so much fun there. I was on a domestic terrorism squad. Anything big happening in Northern Virginia or Washington, D.C., we were usually involved with it. A couple of the big shootings, like the Republican softball shooting.
Yeah.
Responded to that. And it was fun.
Now, quick question. Why does, this is just semantics, but why does the FBI need to team up with local PD? Like, why are you that? Okay.
So after 9/11, they had a Joint Terrorism Task Force, but it was really small. After 9/11, they expanded the crap out of it. So like every single agency in Northern Virginia had probably at least one person there to represent their department. You were sworn in, you're sworn in as a deputy U.S. Marshal because it was easier, but you had all the same powers and privileges as an agent. But you had usually a representative from every department, or at least all the bigger ones. You had a Secret Service rep there. You had a CIA rep there. You had U.S. Army rep there. So it wasn't just police departments. It was kind of every law enforcement, DOD kind of. There's a postal inspector there.
Okay.
Because anytime like the FBI needed something, say, covertly done at the airport, who better to do it than an airport cop in a uniform? You know what I mean? So it was just kind of information sharing. If they needed something from my department, I could get it like this, where it may take them further steps. So it just made the information sharing about like terrorism stuff a lot it just fast tracked it. Because had there been information sharing between certain federal agencies before 9/11, we might not have had a 9/11, you know.
Right.
But it was great, man. I loved it. Went to several undercover schools, so I got to do that. That was fun. Being a 5'5" Lebanese kid, selling an AK-47 to a 6'5" neo-Nazi was a little. I was a little nervous, but it was fun. It really was a good time. But it was you got like, policing. You get your DUIs, you get your domestics, and you might get your robbers every once in a while. But like the people that we were throwing away were like really really bad people. So it was really fulfilling to get like, long-term investigation, really bad dude, lock him up.
Yeah, I would imagine you're filled with a real sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like, we are finally doing good. I'm not just, I'm just not holding back the brush fire. We're actually.
Right. And it was fun. I was teamed up with this guy, Tom O'Connor. He was on the domestic terrorism squad for over 20 years, never promoted, was like the subject matter expert. Just enjoyed the job so much, he just stayed there the whole time. And that's very rare, especially in the FBI, because usually people are jumping from here to there and moving up and down. And so teaming up with him, I learned a lot. And it was definitely a good time. He was actually, him and his wife, Jean, were both agents, and they were evidence techs that responded to numerous big events overseas. But they were one of the lead techs on the 9/11 at the Pentagon. So just their vast experience, like learning from them was great. But it was good. It was also, you watch your different kind of agents. Some of them were kind of cutthroat, man. Some of them would just do stuff to move up and benefit themselves. And I'll talk about my boss Jen in a minute, but she's one of the best bosses I've had, man. She's
fantastic.
I
listened to her interview on the Suffering podcast was just
she
wow.
called me today, man. I haven't talked to her in about a week, I'd say. We were playing phone tag. And she called, and she's just like one of us. She's like, Jesus, fuck you. I'm glad you're alive. And I'm like, sorry, Jen, it's been a busy week. But yeah, me and Jen we're friends for life. But so right before Jen was my boss, man, we were kind of like, any big event happened, we would go to it, and then we would determine whether it's DC police or federal. So 2013, the Navy Yard active shooter started, and we had all like the radios of the DC in our squad area, so we could, kind of hear what's going on. So my boss runs out and goes, you two me and my partner Shay were the only two guys in the office at 8:00 in the morning, because most federal agents work like 4 hours a day. They work from like 10 to about 2, and then they go home for the day. But that's just a dig on them. So me and Shay, we get in my car and we go blasting down there, man. And the call came out for two guys with AK-47s, actively shooting people at the Navy Yard. So we got there pretty quick, man. And I'm in plain clothes, but we park outside the gate. The gate was shut. So we had about a 2-block jog to get down there. But I remember like putting my vest on, and for the first time, I'm like, this could be it, dude. Like, this could be a bad day, because my vest is not stopping an AK round. It's going to go right through that thing. And I didn't even have a long gun then. So it was just me and my 40 caliber at the time. So we go running down there, and they didn't want to let us go in at first because we were in plain clothes. They were worried about a cop-on-cop shooting. But Shay, my partner Shay, was a DC police officer assigned to the task force. So he kind of knew the DC guy there. So they sandwiched him in the middle of 5 people in uniforms. They went left, and then I was in the second one and sandwiched between 5 people, and we went right. But, as soon as you step in there, there was at the front door, there's one of the security guards was deceased. So you're having to step over him just to get in there. And it was an atrium. So it's like 4 stories, and the building was 2 city blocks long. So I just remember going through the door, and I'm like, if that guy's on the 2nd or 3rd floor with an AK pointing down at the door, we're just done. Like, none of us have a chance at even at anything. But luckily he wasn't there. Max, go over there. My dog's trying to eat something. Go. Get out of here. But so we go in there, and obviously people are running out, and somebody pulled the fire alarm, so you can't really hear stuff. DC's got so many different police departments. Park Police, Capitol Police, FBI. Everybody started showing up, and everybody's on different radio channels. So nobody knows what anybody's doing. We're just running around a city building. This building looking for this guy. And then, the security guard, I didn't really see. It was just him and then a big pool of blood. But, you get up to the third floor, and it was the first cubicle area I see. I see probably a middle-aged black female laying down with just half of her freaking head gone. And right behind her was another guy with literally like this. It was not there anymore, man. And it ended up being a shotgun, like the guy was using. It wasn't an AK, but I would say out of the 12 deceased, at least 8 of them were point blank, like right to the face. So to see that, it was kind of like car wrecks for me, because these weren't gang members. They weren't selling dope. They were sitting at their freaking desk doing their job. And now it's just, that could have been anybody. So we go looking for the guy more, and it was half it was skiffed out. So the cubicles were like 5 feet high. So going to each one wasn't easy trying to find him. That's why it took, usually active shooters are over pretty quick. This guy, forgot how long it was, man. I think it was about over 30 minutes that from first shot to when he was killed. But he would shoot a couple people, run down the stairs, go down this way, shoot a couple people, go up. Like he was just running up and down, up and down. So I wasn't anywhere near him when he was shot. It was a DC police officer and I think a Park police officer that ended up shooting him. He did wound 2 police officers. He had stolen the security guard's 9mm. So after his shotgun ran out, he was using that and ended up shooting a cop in the legs right before he got shot. But it was crazy, man. It was, as soon as you cross the threshold, your brain kind of goes into work mode and you just start working and you're not really worried thinking about it. But, after that was over, Shay and I went and we started looking at video. We were trying to find to see if there was a second shooter or not. And it wasn't. It was some miscommunication. But we go outside. We link back up and we go outside. I'm like, where's our squad at, dude? Like, where's everybody at? And there was just command posts everywhere. Like each department had their own command post. This was before, I think this was one of the main events that started the Central Command, actually, in at least the DC area. So we finally found the DC one. And we just start getting berated, dude. Like, why did you go in the building? You self-dispatched. That's not the function of the FBI to investigate kind of after, not be first responders type stuff. And we were just getting, I was like, you told us to go down there, man. And he was like, I didn't tell you to, but it was as patrol officers, that's what we're taught to go in. That's what we're taught to do or whatever. So, so we were getting yelled at, and we were told to go back to the field office and write a report on everything we did and saw and touched and blah, blah, blah. So we go back. And about this time, I realized that I get back to my car and my cell phone's in there. My wife had called me like 16 times or something. I guess one of the teachers at her school said there was a active shooter in DC, and she was just like, I knew you were going to be there. But so I finally called her, and that was kind of a lesson learned too, man. Like, make sure you call the old lady before, 5-6 hours pass by. But we get back to DC, and I'm staring at my computer, and Shay's right across from me. We kind of face each other, and like there's a walkway in between. And I don't even have my computer turned on. And Shay finally just looks at me. He goes, Keith, fuck the FBI. You want to go to a bar? And I go, hell yeah, we just got up and went to a bar, man. Because that's how we medicated ourselves on bad days.
That I would imagine that your brain is still in shock.
Yeah, I had no idea. I'm sitting there staring. I had no idea what I saw. I don't know what to, I just,
Yeah, you haven't had a chance to process any of that nonsense.
um,
My God, dude, I'm sorry.
so, we'll deal with this. We'll deal with this tomorrow. And, you know, miraculously, when our departments gave us medals, the FBI complaints kind of just stopped and went away. And when I got mine, I remember very specifically getting a little upset because two of the people sitting in the front row clapping, being like, "That's our guy on JTTF," were the two guys that were yelling at us. But now that we're getting this, they're all happy and proud of it. So, but man, I think that was kind of like I overdrafted my credit card on that one, man. That was about it for me. And I don't know, 6 months after that, 8 months after that, I ended up rupturing two discs in my back. Um, didn't really go to doctors, so I waited till I got to the point where my leg went numb and I couldn't tie my shoes before I went to him. And he sent me to a spine specialist, and they were like, we can do two things. We can do surgery, we do a fusion, or we can do epidurals. And I was like, let's do epidurals, dude. I'm not down with back surgery at like, I think I was like 36, 37. So we did the first shot, and he handed me a prescription of opiates. Off to the races, man. Love it. Love everything about an opiate. First one I took was, where's this been my entire life, man? I was on cloud nine. I felt great. My brain turned off at night. I loved it. I fell in love with that stuff absolutely immediately.
My brother was a Marine helicopter pilot, and his helicopter, I think in 2012, crashed. He was an Osprey pilot in the Marine Corps,
okay. Yeah.
and it crashed in Morocco. And as a result, he ended up eventually losing both of his legs.
Wow.
But we spent 5 years down at Walter Reed Medical Center, and that is the 100% how they treat pain.
Yeah.
They're just going, we're gonna throw pain meds at it, and it's just like, well, that these things are addictive, and it's like, yeah, well, we'll deal with the addiction later. Right now,
that's why I deal with PTSD too. They give them all kinds of freaking antidepressants and anti this and anti that.
But as I was listening to your story on the other podcasts, and I hear this, and it's just like, we know that this is what's going to happen. Like, why is this? How is this part of the treatment?
Yeah.
Just, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be something better than just getting people loaded up on pain meds that they become addicted to, and then, we'll just deal with it later. You kick the can down the road, and like said, the credit card.
That's exactly what I mean. I went, I went back to my doctor. I don't know how many months later. I remember I was asking him. I said, "Am I getting addicted?" Because my brain is. I've never done drugs. Addiction wasn't even a freaking thought to me. It just wasn't. I wasn't weak-minded enough to be an addict. So I go back to the doctor, and I think it started creeping in. So I asked him. I said, "Am I getting hooked on this, man?" And he goes, "Why would you say that?" I said, "I got to take two." I was like, "One doesn't do it anymore." He goes, "Nah, you're just getting used to it, man. We just got to up your dose." And we upped it. And the timeline's fuzzy, but I was on that for a little while. By the end of that, I knew I was hooked. I knew I was physically dependent on it, because when I'd go through it too quick, I didn't realize why I always had the flu and it didn't even dawn on me, like, you're dope sick, man. Like, it finally clicked after a little bit, but I was like, why am I always sick when I don't have this medicine? And that's when I realized that I was hooked on it. And I went back to him again. I said, "Hey, doc," I said, "I think I'm getting used to these." He goes, "We need to up it again." I said, "Hell yeah." And upped it again, man. So yeah, I was on a very strong dose, man. He was giving me 120 a month. And sometimes they didn't even last a month, to be honest with you. And I'm drinking on top of it. And, stuff at home was, me and my wife would get into a couple arguments here and there, especially when I'd like run out of it. I was feeling like crap, but usually like that stuff, man, I wasn't drinking as much because I didn't need to. And opiates gave me energy, man. I was cooking, cleaning, building shit. It was like, you give her one, she passes out for 6 days. I wanted to do everything on it. And doing some research on it now, they said if an opiate gives you energy, watch out because you might get dependent on it if you do it too much. I'm like, well, that's good to know now. But it was causing enough problems and it was scaring me enough that I knew I couldn't sustain being on those pills. It was getting bad. So I finally went back to the doctor and told him, I was like, I need off of this, dude. And he agreed, and he was like, well, your discs look better. I said, man, my discs have been better for about 6 months. I just come back for the medicine. And he put me on a taper. He goes, no, this is going to kind of, you're not going to feel well. And I was like, well, no shit, man. So I taper off the meds. But I didn't realize what happened in my brain when I took that. When I took the opiates, man, it's like it flipped the light switch on in my brain that I couldn't turn off, because as soon as the opiates went away, my drinking went through the roof. It was every single day. It got to blackout drunk every single day. Get off from work, come home, get hammered till blackout. Weekends, as soon as you wake up, pop a bottle. I was taking, 4 shots right out of bed just to get out of freaking bed, man. It was pretty bad. And the home life the house started falling down, man. Talk about fights. And I was a dickhead husband. I was an awful father. I had 2 kids at this point, my son and my daughter. It was just bad. I mean, I was present. I was still, coaching football and doing all that kind of stuff. But, I was drinking 2 tall boys just to get to football practice, do a football practice. And it became pretty evident that I had an issue, but nobody really said much to me nobody really saw other than my wife. I was still going to work every day. I was still getting accolades for what I was doing every day. Talking about Jen goes and does speaking engagements with me, and she'll tell you she saw me every day and had no clue. Nobody at work bitched about it. So it wasn't really affecting me. So why stop it? And then going all the way back to like the childhood thing, I'm paying the mortgage and I'm paying all the bills, and you have plenty of money for groceries. So leave me the fuck alone.
Right. I'm doing my job. I'm doing my part. And you just find somewhere else to be.
And, but I started the victim mentality in my brain where, woe is me. I've seen all this awful stuff. So I deserve to get hammered every day and be a dick to my family. And, so that went on for a while, man. That went on for a good few minutes. And it came to the point where I knew I was a 100% alcoholic and I wanted to stop, and I couldn't do it. I tried so many times to stop. I couldn't do it. I stopped for a day, stopped for 2 days. By some chance, if I made it to 3 days, I'd convince myself I didn't have a problem and just start drinking again. But I'd be driving home from the FBI office and, tell myself, like, you're not stopping at the liquor store, man. And I would pass the liquor store that I usually went to, but then I would be past my house, the next liquor store with a bottle in my hand. Like, the war inside my brain, the addict war inside my brain was awful. Like, you can't win it. Like, I couldn't win. I consciously knew it was there, and I tried, dude. I couldn't do it. So 2018, I was overseas, and one of my sisters married a Lebanese guy from our Catholic church in Richmond. He had family in Beirut still. And my sister goes, hey, you're going to be kind of over here. Why don't you take a weekend off? Why don't you take a week off with me and come party in Beirut? Beirut's, nightclub scene's actually really good. So I was like, that's a great idea. So I took a week off, flew to Beirut for a week, and I don't remember any of it. I was absolutely shit-faced the entire week, staying with her in-laws, embarrassing her, raiding their liquor cabinet for breakfast. I remember little, snapshots of it and some pictures I'll look at. But I was just drunk the entire time. Went back to work, and then my sister flew back. I went back to work. She flew into Dulles because she's from Richmond, but Dulles was the airport she was flying into. And then she was going to sleep at my house that night and then sleep off her jet lag and drive to Richmond the next day. And, unbeknownst to me, she kind of sat my wife down and was like, I don't know what's going on here, but the amount of alcohol Keith just had in the past 7 days is insane. And he is going to fucking die if we don't do something about it. So I didn't know that discussion happened. I fly home and, my wife's super nice to me. And I'm like, the detective says something's not right here. And then the next day, my dad and mom show up, in-laws. I'm like, as soon as they showed up, I just knew. Like, I've seen the TV show. And this is the only police stuff I have up in my house. But I remember my dad went over and he started looking at it. And I was like, they haven't said why they were there yet. I was trying to play it off like it was no big deal. And my dad went over to look at that. And I was like, what's up, Pop? And he put his hand on my back and he goes, you had a great career. And I'm like, fuck. Like, because in police world, you admit to having a substance abuse problem. That's all she wrote, at least from my experience. So we sat down and they said what they had to say and whatever, my parents said their stuff, whatever. But my wife said what she had to say. That was crushing. That was just devastating, man. And the bottom line was it's me and the kids. You go to rehab or me and the kids are gone and you will not have any contact with us again. It was a very easy decision for me to make. I didn't even think twice about it, but the hard part was making that phone call because my ego at the time was so big because I was the only cop in our whole department that had a top secret clearance, and I answered to the chiefs of police, and I'm that important to saving the world of terrorism that that there's no way I could that's what was preventing me from even trying to acknowledge the fact out loud that I had a problem. My ego just wouldn't let me do it, and I thought my career would be over. Stop, dude. These dogs are awful. Go. Sorry about that. But
you're fine.
So yeah, I couldn't do it. I thought I was important. So when she gave me the ultimatum, I texted my boss, my chief of police, and he texted me back. I said, hey, can you give me a call? And he wrote back, I'm on vacation. Is it important? And I said, yes, sir. It's pretty important. And he calls me back. And I'm a blubbering mess, man. And I'm like, sir, I've got a pretty serious problem with alcohol and I need to get some help. And he's like, how's this going to affect your clearance? I was like, sir, I don't care how it affects my clearance. I'm telling you, I need to get some help, and I just don't know how to do it. And he said, well, call this other guy. And he hung up on me. And the other guy was new. He was a deputy chief. He was new, pretty intimidating. I talked to him a few times, but I really didn't know him. So I call him, and I was more scared than the first one. And dude, this guy was awesome. I was completely wrong. He talked to me for about an hour, and he broke it down for me, man. He said, he goes, Shibley, your priorities are all fucked up. He goes, this is a job. That's it. The day you leave the FBI, they're not going to remember who you were. And the day you leave the airport, they're really not going to remember who you were. He goes, you got to put your family first at some point. And I thought I was by paying the bills, and it was just not right, So we talked for a while, and it really kind of sunk in that I've kind of been doing it wrong for, 15, 16 years at that time. And, I'll always be appreciative of that conversation. And then, I called Jen and told her, and she was amazing. She's just like, okay, she said, thank you for having the courage to make this phone call. I'll have your job waiting for you when you get back. I'm like, whatever, Jen. I thought I'd never talk to Jen again after that phone call, to be honest with you. So I call a bunch of places. They wouldn't take me because of the amount of stuff I was ingesting. They said I had to go to a medical detox. Started calling all the detoxes, and they were full. Like, nobody could take me right away. Like, we take you like day after tomorrow. We could take you Friday. We could take you. I'm like, I have to go right now. If I don't go right now, I might not go. So I might get loaded, and
right.
Who knows?
Talk yourself out of it.
Yeah. So one of the places I called in Maryland, So they were full, but they had a sister detox in New Jersey. And I know you're from New Jersey, so I'll try not to talk too much shit about it.
No. I'm a transplant. All right. I'm a transplant. I had an anchor baby here in 2004 and I got stuck.
But they said, we'll send a car to pick you up. So I was like, send it, man. They sent a car, picked me up, drove me 4 hours to Union, New Jersey. And I walked into this detox. There's a public detox. And, you know, I've done undercover stuff in Jersey, New York. And I'm thinking, what if one of these dudes is in here? You know, is it going to pop? Like, I'm in no shape to be defending myself from anybody right now. But I go there. They do like the intake part. And they take me in this little room with 2 security dudes and a nurse. And, you know, they're doing the blood pressure stuff. And then they're like, all right, take off your shirt. Take off your pants. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, take off your fucking pants, man. They drop your drawers, bend over. I'm like, at that point, it was just everything kind of flashed, man. It's like, how the fuck did I get from the kid that wouldn't smoke a joint to bending over in Union, New Jersey, man? Like, what happened along that road that led me to that spot? It was very humbling. But you know, I was so broken, like spiritually, mentally, physically. I walked in there. I said, I'll do whatever y'all say. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. If y'all can fix this shit, I'll do it. And, you know, detox, I went to like the group stuff and listened to people talk and did this, but it was more of they kept you pretty sedated coming off alcohol. So you didn't have your whatever seizures or whatever.
Yeah, the bends.
Yeah. So, you know, that 7 days wasn't fun. And after that, I was like, I'm fixed. It's been 7 whole days since I haven't had anything. I said, it's been since high school, I think, since I've had 7 days with nothing. So I called the wife and I tell her I'm coming home and I'm all better. And she was like, no, you're not. You are going to a 30-day inpatient or don't come home at all. So they found me an inpatient in Great Falls, Virginia, which is where all like the rich people live in Northern Virginia. It's all mansions with like government workers and sports players and stuff. So we pull up to this mansion. And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about, man. So I was in there with like 11 other guys. No cell phones, no internet. We could call home every other day for about 10 minutes, but someone sat right next to you and listened to you while you're on the landline. So you didn't like order drugs or beer to the house or whatever. But we had an amazing chef. We had massages on Thursdays. But I even joke with the wife and kids now when they get on my nerves, tell them I'm a relapse just to go back to the mansion and get a massage and some good food and peace and quiet. But I didn't really participate in the group stuff there because all my stuff was kind of law enforcement related. And they were like half of the people there were still like, fuck the police, people coming off of drugs and stuff. So I didn't feel comfortable really sharing about that stuff. But the individual therapist I had there was groundbreaking, man. I just started doing what she told me to do, man. I started just unloading. I started unloading all my credit debt on her, like just letting it go from grandfather all the way through. And she was like, I want you to take this little test. It was like a PTSD thing. And I said, I don't have that. It's like, I'm not a soldier. I've never been to war. You know, that's what I thought it was. You know, I thought it was, you know, whatever, shell shock or whatever it was. But she's like, Keith, that's not what it is. So all that stuff was very helpful, man. And the other thing he made us do is go to 12-step meetings every single night. And I didn't participate in those either because I just didn't feel comfortable. I was still kind of I was putting the label that I was not like them every time I went to these, you know, because
Sure.
we go to AA and NA, and I'm like, I paid my bills, man. I didn't live in my car and I didn't rob people or whatever. So I kind of excluded myself from it. Just kind of sat in the back and but we went every day for a month. I went, and the thing that did stick in my brain was how happy some of these people were. I'm like, how the fuck are you that happy, man? And anyway, that it came the end of my rehab, month, and I was petrified to leave. I didn't trust myself. I still wanted to drink. So, I asked, I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I not go to 7-Eleven? Like, alcohol's everywhere. She's like, Keith, just go home, spend time with your family, and go to one of those meetings that you bitch about. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So I go home, and I was just pacing, man. I just didn't know what to do with myself. And my wife convinced me to go to a meeting that I didn't want to go to, and I ended up going, and I stayed sober for that 24-hour period. So the next day I just rinse and repeat. I just did it. I was like, whatever. I might not like it, and I just kept doing it. And then I slowly started participating. Slowly started building like an inner circle of people in recovery. And I started enjoying going. I got this sponsor that every time he said something, it kind of just clicked with me for some reason. So I ended up getting a sponsor, started calling him every day. And I think, like we talked about backstage, man, it's been one of the blessings of this whole thing. But to have someone not in my police circle, not in my family circle, or not in my old school friend circle that I could call and say whatever I want to anytime, no matter how crazy it sounds, and know that it's not going to get out to everybody to, whatever. Someone that I could trust has been the best thing about this stuff. It doesn't have to be a therapist, man. If it's just somebody like that has lived that experience. Therapists have come here. They're eating something. They have their position in recovery, but sit. But having someone that has lived it and been in my shoes is 10 times more valuable to me than than someone that read it in a book, Yeah. But yeah, I'll still talk. Well, he's mad because I need to call him. I haven't talked to him over the years. It's kind of slowed down where it's not every day, but I do need to call that guy. But I still hang out with. I went to meetings every single day for at least 4 years, and I still go. Just with stuff going on, I don't go as much, but I still have my core group of people there, and. I tell when I talk at police academies, different police departments, I tell them straight up, I trust them when I trust 98% of y'all in a uniform. I just do. They're just great people. Some of them are felons. Some of them use hardcore drugs. But they've been in the recovery stuff long enough to, for decades where it's like they completely changed their life, and I respect the shit out of that. And they're just great people.
That is a remarkable statement that you just made. It's a remarkable statement about the trust. I trust these guys more than I would trust those guys. I've been kicked off of juries because they've asked me, do you weigh a police officer's testimony more than somebody else's testimony? And my answer was, well, I put my life in police officers' hands every single day, and a good majority of these police officers are my friends. And so, yeah, I do trust them more than I would trust this other person. So it's an incredible statement.
It's just, it's like.
But I understand it. I understand why you would say that.
Yeah. It's when you can really see, like, it's tough to see. I mean, how many times did you work with somebody for 10 years and then they end up. I worked with this one dude. I went to the academy with this guy. Dude came to my house. The guy was at my wedding. And 12 years later, he got locked up for trying to pick up a 14-year-old online. And it was like, you know what I mean? It was like, what did I miss on that dude? Because, so to get to know these people and like the intimate stuff, like we share about our addictions, our personal lives, shit that bothers us in life, you just get to know them on a different level than you would anybody at work.
Sure.
But yeah, man, it's like, I mean, I do jujitsu with this one guy. I didn't talk to him for 2 years. Dude's scary. He's like 6 foot, long beard, big holes in his ears, tattoos. He looks like a 1% biker. And everybody's like, dude, go talk to him. I'm like, I'm not talking to that dude. One of my best friends, we do jujitsu once a week together now. It's he's just a phenomenal person.
Yeah.
And it really is like a don't judge your book by your cover moment, because I would have never met any of these people if it hadn't been this path that I had to travel, or that I was traveling. I would have. One of my other really good friends is a African American female from DC that did crack for I don't know how many decades, man, and she's just awesome. Like, I talk to her all the time. Like, we just, and it's funny because they'll laugh at me like, I can't believe I'm talking to a fucking cop, and I was like, I can't believe I'm talking to you, but it's cool to kind of break that barrier. I'd love to get that barrier broken more, and it needs to,
Agreed.
especially these days, man. These past 5 years of the defund and hate the police stuff has gotten I don't know. It gets old after a while, getting
Yeah.
going up to every day just trying to start shit to get a video. But
yeah. And we don't try to get real political or religious or whatever on the corner, but I just feel that the more that I've gotten to know individuals, I take my son for an example. He went off to a very liberal arts college, university, and has definitely been kind of indoctrinated into. And he came home over the summer, and we had this great conversation about, and he said, Dad, we're not that far off of our views on things. And I said, yeah, I know. It's if you allow yourself to just kind of feed into the headlines and feed into what Washington's agenda is pushing, it's very easy to be gaslit. It's very easy to to pit each other against each other. But at the end of the day, we're humans, and we have feelings and thoughts, and I think we have a lot more in common than we have apart from each other.
Yeah.
That's just been my experience, especially on the individual level. Maybe the mob mentality is off the rails, but when you get to know somebody on an individual level, I think we have a lot more in common than we give each other credit for.
Yeah. And it's come into play, at work. We had I work a bomb dog now, and there was a bag left in the middle of nowhere at the airport. So they call the canine to sniff it, make sure it doesn't blow up. And it didn't blow up. So our procedure is to take that bag, inventory it for valuables, and then take it to lost and found. So it was a playoff game. So I was like, I'll inventory it later. So I take the bag with me. I go to the canine facility, and I eat dinner, and I'm watching the game. So I open the bag and I start inventorying, and I find a ton of fentanyl, crack, scales, all kinds of stuff, man. And as I'm doing that, and a sergeant shows up and another officer, our dispatch calls and says, "Hey, does your bag look like this? Because there's a lady looking for this bag." I'm like, she can't be that dumb to call the police looking for her bag full of fentanyl, but she was. So I told the younger officer, I said, "Hey, look, take this bag to her and say, is this your bag?" And as soon as she does, if she says that's mine, handcuffs, and I'll come down and we'll talk to her. So that's what happens. He handcuffs. I go down there, I'm talking to her, and I'm like, I thought it was heroin at first. And she goes, "You didn't touch it, did you?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "That's fentanyl." I'm like, shit. So now I'm worried about my dog because my dog's nose was in it. But, she was like, "My bag was left unattended. I think someone put that in there. It wasn't mine." And I'm like, "Ma'am, look, I've been doing this way too long for that nonsense." I said, "If I've got to look at every video camera in this airport to make sure nobody put anything in there," I said, "I'm going to charge you with absolutely everything." I said, "Just be honest with me, and maybe we can work something out." And so she finally told me it was hers and what it was. And it just goes back to being the human level. Like, I sit down and I talk to her, and I look at her ID, and I'm like shocked at how young she was, because she looked a lot older. And I asked her, I said, "Hey, have you ever been clean?" And she goes, I was clean for 4 years. And then I said, "What happened?" And she told me a pretty bad story of some abuse. And she got back on it. So, I I tell her, I was like, look, I don't usually do this. This is usually a patrol officer's job. I was like, I don't know if you believe in higher powers or the universe or whatever. I said, but this is really weird that I'm in this spot with you right now. I said, but I tell you what, I said, I know the jail you're going to. I know for a fact that there's a Narcotics Anonymous program at that jail. I said, you sign up the very first day. And because you have to send that stuff to the lab. It takes months before you even get to court. I said, by the time you get to court, I said, if you're in that program, you're doing good and you're sober, because I know the ladies that run it, we might be able to work something out. So we take her to jail. I only charge her with one possession, one felony possession. I don't even charge her with distribution or the scales or any of that other stuff. And I think we went to court she also had 5 years comeback time in Georgia, so she's going back to Georgia anyway. But we get to court, and I kind of got in a fight with the prosecutor because she did everything I asked her to do. And I was like, dude, I want to null pros the charge. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I want her to be sober and live. I don't give a shit about a court sentence. And you know what I mean? Like, rookie, when you're younger, you want, I got this many years, but I want her to be alive and not be on dope. That's my main goal. And she went to the program. She looked like a completely different person 3 months later, like not being on that stuff. So I did, man. I just ended up dismissing that shit. And, I said, I hope you get in the program in Georgia, because she was going back for a number of years, but I was like, just keep doing this, dude. But that's the human level that, I think that's kind of missing in law enforcement, and it also goes to maturing. Like, when I was a 22, 23-year-old cop, I was an asshole. I mean, I was a 24-year-old with a badge and a gun, and you just want,
Sure.
They kind of instill that us against them mentality in the academy, and you just go out that way. But
and it doesn't help that we as society are doing the defund the police and all of this, rage against law enforcement that goes on a regular basis. My partner in EMS, he went on to be a cop, and he was there for maybe, I don't know, maybe he was there a year, 2 years, and he got out of it. He was like, no, I'm not. He went through the academy and everything, and I was there for his graduation, and once he got into the meat grinder, he was just like, you know what, I think I'd rather just be on an ambulance.
Yeah, I've got about 3 years left, and I'm ready to hang her up and start doing some mental health stuff, like, permanently. But that was so.
DC is nothing for me. I would love to be a part of. I mean, I don't want to insert myself, but I'd love to align myself with what I consider good humans, and you definitely qualify for that.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, for sure. And it's really weird how just the speaking thing came about, because it's not me. Like, it's not in my gene to talk on YouTubes or in front of people at academies and stuff. But one of my new bosses, I don't know, a couple of years ago, was like, hey, they're trying to make this video about substance abuse and mental health and law enforcement. They're having a hard time finding someone that's willing to talk about it. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I guess one of the good things one of the good traits I was born with was I've never really cared what other people thought. Either you're going to talk shit about me or you're not, regardless. So I did that video, and it kind of was like, well, can you come talk to this group or that group? And it just kind of snowballed. And now me and Jen go talk to the FBI National Academy every quarter on how to treat it. The class is called at-risk employees. So when we get there, man, the National Academy is about 200 cops from across the country that are aspiring to be like chief, deputy chief level. So they're usually like lieutenants and captains. And I get there, and the very first thing I say is like, how many of you guys know someone in your department that has either a mental health or substance abuse problem? And everybody raises their hand. And I'm like, what do y'all do about it? And there's just crickets, because, my past experiences, I said, let me guess, y'all wait till they fuck up enough so you could fire them. And they're like, yep. Like, why are we still doing that, man? Because that's how it's been. And I can name you 10 good cops that we knew they had a problem, and nobody said anything to them. They just waited until they got the DUI or the domestic or the bar fight, and then they fired them. And then those guys usually end up being a statistic, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, why are we still doing that? And so I kind of tell my story. Then Jen comes in and explains why she did what she did. But getting back to Jen, man, when I got out of rehab, my department tried to bury me. I sat at headquarters for about 4 weeks. They said, sit at that desk. Oh, you know, that's it. And I sat there, got pretty good at Candy Crush and some other video games on my phone. Went to my sergeant at one point. I said, dude, give me something. Give me like a stolen laptop or some shit. My brain is going like, I've got to do something. And he said, he looked right at me and goes, you're a fucking liability. You're lucky you still have a badge. You sit at your desk. I said, yes, sir. I sat at my desk again. In this 4 weeks, Jen's calling me Jen's from New York, and she's just called me every day. What's going on? When are you coming back? When are you coming back? I'm like, Jen, stop. The one thing that they have told me is I am not going back to the FBI. So I'm just happy I still have my job. Don't worry about it. And she just kept persisting and persisting. So she goes, I want a meeting with your chief. I said, Jen, my pay hasn't changed. I'll just sit at the desk and play Candy Crush. I don't give a shit. But she was insistent on it, man. And she comes in, and I got kicked out of that office, but she went in there, and from what she says is she basically said, we tell our people that if they have a problem to raise their hand so we can get them help. And that's what Keith did. How's it going to look on the next person if you punish him for doing what we asked him to do? The next person, if they don't want to lose their job or lose their position, is just going to not say anything. And she goes, and if that officer gets in a car wreck and kills a family, that's on you. Like, shit. But it's kind of true, I guess. So she comes out of that meeting, and they talk for like an hour. She comes out of that meeting, and she's like, I'll see you on Monday. And she just walks out of the door, and I'm like, what the hell happened? So they called me in, and they were like, okay, you can go back to the FBI. You got a year. You got 1 year left. It was supposed to be a 4-year gig. It had been 9 years at that point. So, I mean, I was appreciative of the compromise, because it at least let me go in there without just, being a ghost and disappearing and never coming back.
Sure.
But I didn't realize how Jen, she pretty much put her whole career on the line, man. She did. The FBI supervisors above her were trying to talk her out of it. Just said, let's just get a new body from the airport. Like, we don't need this stuff. And I mean, she really went to bat for me. She was like, I will take full responsibility. I'll meet him. I'll see him every day. If I think something's up, and they basically said, okay, well, if he messes up royally, it's on you. And she was like, I'll take it. And she goes into why she made that decision. She wouldn't do that for everybody, but Jen was the type of boss that really got to know all of her people. Like, there was 18 of us, and on the squad, I think. And she got to know everybody. She got to know their families. She'd come around doing the stupid, tell everybody a fun fact. I'm like, Jen, I don't want to fucking tell people a fun fact, but she'd make you do it. And we had squad picnics, man. We had squad picnics where the whole families were there, and she was invested in her people, and that's very rare.
Yeah, that's true leadership. That's even true squad leadership.
Yeah, but even in police work, it's rare, because most people, they just do what they do to get to the next step up. And I overheard this, where her boss told her one time that she will not get promoted because she cares too much about her people and not enough about management. And she was like, okay. She ended up getting promoted a couple levels above that. She retired at a very high level, but it is true leadership, man, because what that did for me was it just, it gave me extra motivation not to fuck up.
Like, well, not only that, but it also gave you motivation. Like I just being a supervisor, for like 125 EMTs, when you lead like that, your troops are so much more willing to give you the absolute very best that they have. Like you, and I'm, objection, Your Honor, speculation. I would say that you aspire to give her your very best because of the kind of leader that she
Yeah.
is. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like it's reciprocated. Like she's who she is, and so therefore I don't want to let her down. Like, your motivation is I don't want to let her down.
Yeah. And she's awesome, man. She pretty much she saved my career pretty much, because I don't know where I would have been if she didn't step in. So yeah, man, we are her husband's a retired agent. He's awesome. Jen and my wife are really good friends now too, so it's cool. She's stuck with us forever, I guess now, but she's very good people, man. I'll be in debt to her for a long time, but I knew if I messed up, it would screw her career up, and you don't want to do that for someone that stuck their neck out for you,
Sure.
know. Plus, I'm kind of scared of her. But we called her the honey badger, man. You don't mess with the honey badger; she'll fuck you up.
I've seen some awesome videos on that. The three lions going after it, and it just takes it, shrugs it off.
But I tell you what, man. I mean, just doing these things and being outspoken about it, like my phone rings off the hook, man.
Yeah.
I had one guy. He's got like 3 years. No shit, more than that. Probably 5 years my senior at the department, and he was a Marine and a sniper and tattooed up and our SWAT team guy. And COVID messed a lot of people up because people didn't have a lot to do, so a lot of people started drinking more.
Yeah.
And this is another boss that did a phenomenal job. He kept calling out sick, like just using sick day after sick day, and it's not like him. So his sergeant, he called out sick one night, and the sergeant goes, "This isn't like you. What's going on?" That's all she said. And then he just lost it on the phone, man. If she would have just said, "Okay, sick leave," and hung up the phone, then who knows? But she said, "What's going on?" And he just started spilling the beans. And she goes, "Are you cool with Keith?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm cool with Keith." She goes, "You need to call him right now." And that dude called me at about 1:45 a.m. and just a blubbering mess like I was, man. So I asked him, I said, "I got to ask you, man." I said, "You thought about killing yourself?" He's like, "Well, I've had a bottle and a gun in my lap for 2 days." And I was like, "I'll be at your house in a little bit," and drove to his house and kind of talked him in. He didn't want to go to rehab because he didn't want the stigma. And I talked him into it. I didn't know about these places before, but like Warrior's Heart in Virginia, the one place in Maryland, the name escapes me right now, but they're first responder, military friendly rehabs. They only do military first responders, and they're clinicians focused. They're like specialized kind of in that realm. So, he agreed to go, and I called him, and they're like, "When can he come?" Like in 2 or 3 days. I'm like, "We'll be there in 4 hours." And they always make it work, man. And they have a medical detox and a rehab in the same spot, so you don't have to go to friggin' Union, New Jersey, and bend over in a closet. But but on the ride up there, man, it was, it's 4 hours of he's scared shitless like I was and a mess. And he goes, "Keith, how did I get here?" And I was like, "I don't know, dude." I said, "But we'll figure it out, man." And he told me, he said, "If you weren't open about your addiction," he goes, I would have killed myself this week." He's like, "No doubt about it." And I tell you what, man, worrying about like my clearance and the accolades and fucking medals and shit, they mean absolutely nothing, dude. Like that has been the most rewarding thing anyone has ever told me there. It fulfills all this shit. And then it just made me realize, well, I can do more like with this stuff, because like you said, that the suicide and first responders outnumber the line of duty deaths every year. And that's not even counting retired guys, because how do you count retired guys? If I moved to New Jersey right now and I did that and cops come, they didn't know I was a cop. So therefore It's not counted as, so the number is probably at least double what it is every year with retired guys. Um, So, I thought growing up, being a cop was what I was meant to do, but I think it's this, and I had to go through that to get to where I'm at.
100%. Keith, if you don't mind, I want to just kind of circle back, and I want to kind of ask your expertise about this. So, we started the show talking about, it's not point A to point B, it's point A to B to C to D. And in your situation where, you had a back injury and you went to your primary and your primary was like, here you go, champ. Somewhere in that journey of C, D, E, F, all of a sudden you now have this addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't something that you willingly did. It wasn't, it wasn't like you had talked, like, oh, I was, experimenting in drugs and I got hooked on heroin. It wasn't anything like that. How does one even know that they, one, have a problem, and two, it's a question that I ask myself a lot. Here on the corner, we make a joke about, grab your apple juice, which is what we call, alcohol, because it's YouTube and whatnot. And so I say, grab your apple juice, sit back and enjoy yourselves on the corner. And, just out of respect for you, I'm drinking real water this time, not.
It doesn't bother me, man.
I know it doesn't, but still, it's just, I think it would be inappropriate. But my question is, someone like me, who has all of those demons and has all those darkness, that I wrestle with on a daily basis. Like one of the first ones to admit, yeah, I know that I have depression issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's hard because sometimes it's irrational. It's irrational depression or and whatnot. And I will self-medicate to go to bed. Right. Yeah. Like, so it's not like I wake up in the morning and I need to have a drink. I don't think about drinking throughout the day. I go to work and I do my small business and I come home and I have dinner and whatever. And it's not until it's like, all right, well, it's about midnight and I need to stop this. And so I will pour I'll pour usually 2 stiff ones. And then I know I got 20 minutes before I have 20 minutes that I need to find my bed, and my head hits the pillow and I'm good. And then my alarm goes off the next morning at 6 a.m. and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, it's time to get back into the fray of things. So the question is, I know that if I don't do that, because I do dry January every year, I do dry January. I know that if I don't do that, I'm looking at the ceiling till 3-4 a.m. I just, you know what I mean? Like I'll go to bed at 12 o'clock and I will just lay there for 3 hours. That tells me that there is some level of dependency there. I've tried sleepy time tea. I've tried melatonin. I've tried all of those fun things that you can try to supplement to have a better night's sleep. I do, magnesium glycinate because that's supposed to calm your brain and all that other stuff. And it just seems to be, for me, the easiest trick is to just hit those 2 glasses and then go to bed.
I would say, for knowing I had a problem, it's 2 things. It's thinking about it right when I wake up. Like if you're thinking about, I can't wait to get off. If have the drink, if your midnight drink is what you think about all day long, then that might be a little concerning. And the other thing is when it starts negatively affecting your life, it negatively affected everything about my relationships, my finance, everything. It started negatively affecting my life. Those are the 2 biggest things, I think. It's just the thinking about it all the time, and if it negatively affects your life. I've got the solution for you because I just found it myself, because I, too, can't go to sleep. I would literally sleep in the basement a lot because I'd have to watch TV and wait till I just fell asleep watching TV. Have you had your testosterone checked?
I don't know. I just had my physical in the beginning of
Yeah,
February.
you gotta request it.
Yeah, I don't know if I did. I don't know if I did.
So I got on the thing about like military first responder stuff is, you know how you live in that hypervigilance all the time?
Uh-huh.
It wears your body out, man. It destroys it. And someone asked me about it, and I went and got my testosterone tested, and I think anything under 300 is low. I was like 185, man. A 19-year-old is in like the 1200s. So I don't do needles, never have, but my doctor gave me it's like an alcohol-based cream I put under my arms every day, and it just, man, I tell you what, I sleep better. I wake up freaking refreshed. Obviously, you know, working out, it's been a game changer for me, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I would say check that out, because it has helped me definitely like sleep. But the other thing is just, other than like talking to people, I don't sit still. I have to have something to do. So just finding healthy habits now. So like I used to go to the gym a lot, and then my back, and then I actually had 2 neck fusions in 2019 and 2020. And so I stopped for a while, but like the gym now, like if I don't go to the gym at least a handful of times a week, I feel like crap. But it's finding healthy outlets. That being said, I had 2 surgeries, pretty significant ones, and knew I was going to have opiates. So I've been completely honest with all my doctors. I'm all red flagged in every freaking doctor I have that I'm an opiate addict. And the guy that did my neck, the first neck fusion, I think I managed that one without anything. The second one was so bad that it was supposed to be outpatient, and I woke up in a hospital room. And immediately when I woke up, I mean, it was like an old friend came by to say hi. I was high as shit, and I loved it. And I was also mad. The doctor came in, and I'm like, "What the fuck, doc? Like, you know?" And he told me, he said, "Keith, that was bad." He goes, "If you didn't have that right now, like, you would be absolutely miserable." He had me on a drip to like an IV one too, which was so.
God damn.
It's all about like
that's insanity. I think at that point, like, I think I'd rather be in pain. You know what I mean? I would rather be in pain than go through the hell that you went through.
Well, I think so. I remember waking up like right after the surgery, and it was probably for about 10 seconds, because my whole body was completely locked up and I had tears going. I've never experienced pain like that. And I remember hearing the doctor say, give him a shot of ketamine and something else. And then I was back out, because the nurse was like petting me like a dog. She's like, it's coming. And the rupture, I guess he says they're usually in between 2 and 4 millimeters, and mine was 12. He's like, it was bad. So he gave me opiates to take home. He goes, Keith, at least for the first couple of days, you got to take these. But wanting to stay clean, you just got to, and I learned this through my my 12-step program stuff is you got to be honest about it and ask for help. So my wife got them. She got a lockbox. When it was time to have one, she would give it to me. She'd count them. She'd write it down. She'd lock it back up. And I did that for, I think, the first 2 days. And on the third day, I remember, hey, you're not in pain, but it's time to have one if you want one. And that scared the shit out of me. So I told the wife, I was like, flush them. I said, flush that shit. And she's like, are you sure? I'll flush it. And she flushed it. And I mean, that was the last time, I had one. But you can get through it if you really want to. You just got to be kind of responsible about it. There might be a time I need it again. I don't know, but it's, at least I know what I'm facing at this point. I know how to combat it.
Yeah.
I kind of went down a rabbit hole on your question. I don't even know if I answered.
No, not at all. That's exactly exactly what I'm looking for. I question I question myself all the time because it has been such a prolonged period of time that I think I started probably around '08 is when I was yeah, I remember. Yeah, '08 was a really fun year for me.
I mean, if it's not negatively affecting your life, man, it's
Well, I mean, it might be. I
yeah,
read all this stuff about when you pickle your brain like this, maybe cognitive ability isn't there, cloudiness, your ability to recall certain details
yeah.
and events. Like, is it affecting me? Probably. It can't be healthy for me. But I mean, again, when I took my physical this past year or past February, I said, this is what I went to Chat GPT and I was just like, you know, if I want to be, if I'm concerned about this, what blood test do I need? And, they did liver enzymes, they did all of this stuff. I mean, and everything across the board is great. And I mean, I've shed, well, since my peak, I think I peaked at like 307 and now I'm at 222.
Damn, nice.
I met Tracy Beans this past summer, and she got me on the carnivore diet, and I was able to shed all kinds of weight through the carnivore diet. It's got my blood sugars back in control, my blood pressure is back under control. My liver enzymes are perfect. My doc was like, I've never seen your blood work look the way that it's looked, and I've known you for a long time. I said, well, I haven't been this weight since the 90s, so
that's awesome, man.
But again, I worry about my alcohol intake. Like,
yeah,
I just do because I mean, I'd say because my wife, for example, my wife and I we'll both have drinks, and she's like, I can't drink as strong as what you got going on. Make mine half of that with water, and I'm like, okay, no problem. And I just know I got 20 minutes. Once I do it, like I'll be sitting here playing video games or whatnot. I'm not drinking. I'm not doing any of that, but it's just like, man, I got to get to bed.
Yeah.
Pop.
Yep.
20 minutes.
I mean, a lot of people get hooked on freaking Tylenol PM, dude, or Benadryl, whatever they used to go to sleep. It's a lot of people do stuff like that to go to bed. The thing about alcohol and sleep is I didn't know this either but you don't even really get good sleep.
That's what they say, yeah. Because you can't. It inhibits you from entering REM or something like that.
Yeah.
Take my chances.
But get your testosterone checked, man. If it's really, really low, I'm telling you, that's a game changer. It really is. And people are like, oh, you just want it so you can. I mean, some people look at it as steroid. A lot of doctors refuse to give it for so long. And now it's just becoming, I wouldn't say popular, but more doctors. Because talking to some of my buddies in the military, their testosterone was so low, and the VA refused to give it to any of them. And now that like they're starting to do it, it's like people are feeling a lot better, getting better sleep, a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I wrote it down. I'm definitely going to give McAndrew a call this week. Be like,
I'll shoot you I'll text you what I'm
all
on,
right.
and maybe you could ask him about it or whatever. But
yeah, for sure.
But it's helped, man. But I still go through spurts where I just can't. I'll go through a couple of days where it's like I'll get too high, I can't sleep, my brain doesn't turn off, and you just go through those kind of spurts or whatever. But I don't know.
So I saw on your Facebook page in the beginning of February you gave a presentation for the FBI Academy class of I forget 275 298.
Oh, it's the National Academy. Yeah, that's
National Academy.
That's the boss. Yeah,
down at Quantico, VA. Like I spent many years at Quantico Marine Base. My dad was stationed there a lot.
Oh, wow.
The crossroads of the Marine Corps. And so it was really, I got to go to the FBI FBI, whatever, a bunch of times as a kid, and they give tours and stuff like that. And
I go there. Me and Jen go every quarter and talk to.
What does a presentation like that entail? Like, what are you?
Basically, this what I'm doing now. I kind of just go through it, man, from childhood through it. That's pretty much it. And then when we, Jen does her stuff at the end about why she made the decisions she made, and how you know, like you said, 90% of the bosses would never do that.
Yeah.
And like we need to get back to that stuff. So like even in, you have a lot of bosses now, and I talked to our department about this. They're good people, man, and they're good managers. They can manage you. They can tell you where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, all this other stuff. But they're not leaders. They don't lead by example.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I had this one boss when I was a first detective, Sergeant Graff, man. That dude would be the first one in a dumpster. I'd be like, come on, man, let's go look for this in a dumpster. And he just led by example. He was a great boss.
100%. I would never ask one of my troops to do something that I wasn't willing to do myself. Period.
So yeah, we got to do that. I've gone to a couple different police departments, and when I talk to the academy, you know, I tell them, you know, if you do this job for a year or 20 years, it's going to change you. You're not going to be the same, and it's going to be a negative change. Like you'll have your positives along the way, but this job is going to affect you negatively, and nobody ever talks about that. So I just try to explain to them that, like, you know, it's okay to, you got to pay that shit off every month, man. You know, I mean, it's not every month, but you got to pay it off. Like, it's a really big event.
Yeah, the big ones have to be addressed.
Yeah,
sooner than later.
So, like, real quick, and I'll stop talking. But when the helicopter plane crash happened at Reagan, man, I raced down there. I left my dog at home because I wasn't going. I worked my shift already. I was at home. I was going as like a peer support because I knew it was going to be a messed up scene. And I got down there, and the peer support guy was like, "Hey, meet me here." And I said, "We're really tight with our fire and EMS guys because it's such a small department." I said, where are the fire guys bringing the bodies? And he said, the North Pier. I said, I'm going to be at the North Pier, man. And did I want to go? No. I mean, I knew it was going to be bad. You know what I mean? But it's like, that's what you're in the job for. Like,
yeah, that's what you were wired to. You're wired to do that. It's not an issue of wanting to. It's more of a, I have to.
So I went down there, and very quickly I was one of the people in control of the casualty collection point. And man, we didn't anticipate that many children being on that plane. And then there's partials and all kinds of stuff. But that was the first time that, like, I really saw what a strong peer support team can do, because one of the fire guys comes running up and he's like, "Keith, come here." And I go down there, and there's a young 19-year-old firefighter. And he's sitting in the boat like this, fucking frozen, nothing. Just, he was carrying something. Somebody took it away from him, but he's still sitting like this. And I looked at him. I said, "Get him out of here. Get him back to the fire station." And I said, "I'm going to get somebody to take my spot here, and I'll meet you there." And they got him back to the fire station. I called the therapist that was kind of for our department. I said, "You need to meet me here." She's like, "I could be there in like 45 minutes. And we went back there, and it's just like, sometimes the higher ups were like, so we're sitting there, right? We're sitting in the kitchen, and everybody's kind of having a cup of coffee, just kind of figure out what the hell happened. And, it's silence. And then one person talks, and people start talking, and the bosses were like, because that was the first boat crew. They were getting relieved after the first 3 hours or so, because it was ice cold water. And the higher ups were like, "I want the first boat crew and the guys at the casualty collection point to come to headquarters to debrief the higher ups on the." And I looked right at my lieutenant. I said, "Absolutely not. Nobody's going anywhere, dude. We're sitting in this kitchen. They don't need to know this right now. It's still like a completely active scene." I said, "What these guys need to do is sit at this table with a cup of coffee and shoot the shit." And they started talking about, "Did you see this?" And that was messed up. I mean, but it was like, that's what they needed to do. They got to get it out, stuff.
Talk it out. Yeah.
It was really good to see the peer support stuff actually work. And then the follow up with we did critical incident debriefs with everybody. And then, I couldn't believe the amount of people that volunteered to go to seek individual help after that. And they did. And nobody looked down upon them or talked shit like they used to. So, it's good stuff, man. We're moving in the right direction. We just got a long way to go.
That's incredible, and I'm so glad that you're doing that work. Again, going A, B, C, D. You telling your story, you can really see some significant milestones that happen, and again, they don't teach this in the academy. They don't teach this in EMS school. They don't teach any of that stuff. From um, the very first time that kid jumped into that truck, and then you have a dickhead supervisor, and then you have one of 40,000 images in your head that you'll never get out of your head, and then you have all of these things that continue to build up, and there's such a you said so in your own words. There's a misunderstanding of what PTSD is.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I wasn't in combat. I didn't experience artillery fire and all that stuff, but it's different. And when Adam Blevins, by the way, a shout out to Adam Blevins for introducing us.
Adam's awesome,
he's phenomenal. When Adam Blevins was on the show, and I asked him, what exactly is trauma? Because we're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder. So what is trauma? And he said it's anything that changes the way your brain thinks about something.
Yep. I think it's, I don't even like the disorder on the end of it anymore, man. Everybody's got some kind of post-traumatic stress about something. Like I said, your worst day of your life is your worst day of your life, no matter what it is.
Right.
And some people deal with it negatively, and some people, can deal with it in a more healthy way. But the other thing that is just like, it bothers me when people use it to stay sick. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like,
sure.
They use it as, this thing bad happened to me, so I'm just gonna, like, they quit. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be like that, man. Like, I understand how bad it sucks, but you can get over that hump and get to the other side of that shit. It's possible. Trust me. Because like we talked about backstage, I didn't have an active plan to take myself out. But I was doing some really dumb, risky shit at work, thinking if it happens, it happens. And at least I go out a quote unquote hero, and my family gets paid off, because I couldn't figure out a way to do it where my family got the payout. Because if you do it yourself, they don't get it. This is how sick it was, man. I even read the policy. I said, well, if I'm in my car and I hit a brick wall, they're like, well, the only way to insure it is to not wear your seatbelt. If you're not wearing your seatbelt, you get in a wreck, the policy doesn't cover you. So I was like, I couldn't figure out a way to, back then, I wasn't actively completely trying to do it, but I wasn't trying to prevent.
Exactly. I made a comment that I said, so I had a horrible accident back in '94, horrible accident. And in the process, it ended up cracking my sternum, which is mostly cartilage. And so every once in a while it'll pinch, and I'll get chest pain from it, but it's not cardiac related chest pain. I know exactly what it is, but I remember making the comment to a buddy of mine. I said, I got that pinch in my chest again today. And it just got me thinking that if it was really a cardiac related, I would just lock the door and not tell anybody. Just let it happen. I wouldn't tell anybody. I just let it happen. I'm not trying to kill myself, but I'm not opposed to checking out. It's a horrible place to be.
It is. It really is, man. And it's people used to mistake that for courage, I guess you would say. They're like, God, Keith, I can't believe you did that. You've got to set. I was like, I didn't want to tell him. It's not courage, dude. I just
it's kind of a death wish.
Yeah. But I mean, just touch on it real quick. I know I talk too much.
Keith, I welcome this whole thing. We haven't even really cracked open the mental health case yet. So.
I remember I was sitting in a debrief at the FBI office, and I didn't know what it was, but I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And I make it downstairs we have a nurse. They had a nurse station down there, and I 100% thought I was dying. And he gave me some baby aspirin, and I was like, they wouldn't give this to me if I wasn't actually having a heart attack. And by the time I got to the hospital, they were like, you had a severe panic attack. I said, I don't have anxiety, dude. What are you talking about? Like, I don't have it. But that thing was, people that have those, I feel for you, because after that, I would have panic attacks worrying about when my next panic attack was going to be. And it was just, dude, people called me shakes at work all day because I was shake when I was, but it's just another form of not unloading the card, man, not unloading that debt. It's going to come out at some way. And that day it decided to come out in a freaking severe panic attack that.
Yeah, and they are the worst. And if you've never experienced a panic attack, you can very easily mock it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've ever experienced a panic attack, it is the most irrational, illogical thing that you could do absolutely nothing about.
Yep.
You just can't, like, I don't, I can't breathe. I can't, my pulse is racing, and I can't, and you're just like, and for why? There's no, other than the fact that your brain just freaks, and there's nothing.
I flew to Minneapolis last March to do a presentation, actually. Plane crash was into January. So I'm on this little ass plane, and I hate flying anyway. And I'm listening to a podcast or something, and my anxiety starts just rising and rising. And the whole 2.5 hours, man, I was just waiting for the collision to happen. I'm just waiting, like it's going to happen. But I start laughing at myself because I know how irrational that thought is. I work at a freaking airport. I'll see hundreds of thousands of planes land safely every single day for 20 years. And this is one accident. So I'm like laughing at myself, but I can't get rid of the anxiety. And, I do my presentation at VA Leap, which is how I met Adam. And I went to a VA Leap. He goes, we're going to EMDR that shit. And we did. And got on a plane with my wife to go to Florida a couple months later and was perfectly fine. So EMDR, if people haven't heard it, look it up, man. Eye movement desensitization, reprocessing. That's a game changer too. It really is. The process is not fun, but it was a big game changer in a lot of my big trauma points throughout the career.
Yeah. He talked about it on our show. Just absolutely fat. I think I could probably benefit from it.
It's good.
I think my brother can definitely benefit from it.
I did it with my original therapist when I left rehab. But then something big happened and I had to have a little touch up, dude. So,
So you've had it more than once.
Well, it's not a one and done thing. Like we just he introduces it at this PCIS we do, but I mean, shit, I did it every week for months.
Okay.
Because what it does, did he explain it on your show, I guess?
A little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's smart, so he probably used terms that I don't understand. But so the way it was explained to me and that I could comprehend it was like a big traumatic incident happens and your brain doesn't want to deal with it, so it boxes it up and it puts it back here. So what EMDR does is it takes it out and you go through that incident detail by detail by detail, and it sucks. And my therapist goes, "You're going to cry. It's okay." I'm like, "I'm not going to cry. I was crying in 10 minutes." But you go through it, and then you stop, and you talk about it. Then you go through it, and you stop, and you talk about it. And they do some other things. And what it allows it allows your right and left side of your brain to process it, and then it puts it back in the box. So if a smell or a sight or a thought triggers that box to open, it doesn't flood you with like a 10. It's like down to like a 2. But it helps manage it a lot better. Okay. It's definitely worth it, man. And the other thing with therapists is this. A lot of people will go and say, that sucked, blah, blah, blah. I had to go through 3 to get to one I really clicked with. Like, they say therapists are like a pair of jeans. They might all fit, but you got to find the one that's comfortable. My first one quit after 2 weeks. She was in her 20s. She said she couldn't take my stories and she left. And I finally found the one that, that I clicked with, man. And so if you go to one and it sucked, just call another one because.
Well, I can tell you right now that Pat Obst, shout out to Pat. She saved my life. She saved my life. I remember the first session that I had with her, I just started sobbing And I said, I don't even know why I'm sobbing in front of a complete stranger. This is not me. My dad was a Marine, Colonel. Your father told you to lock it up when your grandfather, same thing. But I mean, I just started sobbing, and I said, I don't know why. And she said, because your brain finally knows that it's in a safe place. So let's talk.
And I tell you what, man, once you open those floodgates, dude, I can't look at a TikTok video of someone giving their dad a puppy because their first puppy died and not cry like a baby every single time. I was at work and it's just like, they're like, what's wrong? I was like, nothing, it's dog video, dude. Don't worry about it. But I'm not talking about you, buddy. But it's just like, I don't even try to hide it anymore, man. It's.
Yeah. Well, everybody that's a regular on the corner knows that I cry like a bitch on the regular on this show.
But yeah, man, your show's awesome. It's definitely needed in today's world, especially with men. Not to discount women, but men a lot of times don't like to talk about this stuff. But yeah, I mean, Tuesdays at 8, I do one on YouTube, the Mind Over Madness one, and the Roll the Bones.
I got all your stuff ready to plug.
Roll the Bones people are here. They're awesome too. Their show's phenomenal. This is awesome because I don't know. I've never met Chris from Roll the Bones in person. I talk to him all the time on the phone. Like you meet some really cool people from doing from this process, man. So,
no, this platform has given me an opportunity to not only to talk about it, but to just meet the most incredible people. And then we'll go to trade shows and, people will want to be like, I've gotten a couple of emails and DMs from people that, are so appreciative of the fact that we're talking about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And, and then they share with me what they're going through. And it's kind of like, if we can just help one person, what I mean? My mission in life is to I just want to leave the place a little bit nicer than when I found it. That's it. Too. You know what I mean? And what's great about what, your testimony and my testimony is we went through it. So hopefully somebody else doesn't have to.
Right.
And that's why we talk about it. And that's why, and it's just like, you're not alone. We see you, we hear you, we love you. You're not alone. And that's why it's so important that we keep talking about it, especially, on any platform. And the fact that, now that I've gotten involved with a couple of other distributors like the House of Rags, and they're talking about it on some of their programs. It's just great that the only way that we can win this is if we pull all the light out to snuff out the darkness. Mm-hmm. That's it. And the only way that I know about it is to talk about it.
Yep.
So all of that being said, we have a couple of things here. So the first one is, I believe this is a charity that you are a very big proponent of.
Yeah. So Frontline Healing Foundation, man. I got linked up with them through a friend, but they help subsidize the cost of rehabs for military and first responders. So, it's completely donations based. Please go to Frontline Healing Foundation, click on that stuff, man. Throw $10 on there, $20, whatever. Any amount helps, but yeah, they help subsidize the costs for people that need to get to rehab and may not have all the means, but they work a lot with Warriors Heart, which is in Texas and in Virginia now, which is an amazing spot to go. But it's just, talking to Jordan from Frontline Healing Foundation, it's when I first started talking about it with them, it's to find out that they had 100 applicants and only had the funds to send 50 people is not acceptable, man. I mean, that's 50 military first responders, people that, who knows if they ever got there some other way or what happened to them. So I'm just trying to do my best, man, to fundraise for these guys so we can get as many people that were in my shoes.
Well, I mean, you've heard the 22 a day
Yeah.
for military, 22 military suicides a day. What is it? The 22 a day project,
Yep.
the 22 project. Yeah,
And I think it's even more than that, but
I'm sure.
But yeah, check out Frontline Healing Foundation. It's a I do pretty good research if I'm going to align myself with a charity, and this is bar none the best one that I've found. So it's a good it's a good organization.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Subsidized funding for chemical dependency and PTSD treatment, funding for sober living housing, providing funding for ESA and service dogs to warriors, and provide funding for brain treatment therapy. Yeah, I definitely think that this is something that we can all get behind. So there's that. What else do we got here? So speaking of your YouTube, you said every Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Where can they find you?
I mean, just put Keith Shibley in pretty much any of the social medias. I'm in there, and LinkedIn. I do a lot of my you can find Frontline Healing Foundation. If you go to my Instagram or LinkedIn, I got a bunch of Frontline Healing Foundation up there if you didn't get that.
Okay.
That website.
IG is Keith Shibley.
Yes.
Your YouTube is Mind Over Madness Mom.
That's it.
Yep. And then all right. If someone was watching this tonight and they feel the way that you felt as you once did, what would you tell them?
Pick up the damn phone. The phone will save your life, man. Just pick up the phone and call somebody. If it's a hotline, it's a hotline. If you need to call me, shit, go on Instagram and give me a DM, and I'll give you my phone number. I really will, because this is a hell I don't wish upon anybody, man. But the phone saved, like, my first year of recovery sucked, and the phone saved my life many a times, because I was ready to throw in the towel so much, and all they kept saying was just pick up the phone and call somebody. And if you could just get through that 30 seconds to a minute talking to somebody, you could usually make it through that one day. Just pick up the phone.
Something that I've addressed a couple of times on the show, and I affectionately call it the darkness. And maybe it's different for what you were experiencing, but for my affliction, it's hard to reach out. I have an incredible support group. I mean, there are at least a dozen people in my orbit that were like, you experience anything, you call me.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes it's better to talk to somebody you don't know.
But
I guess for some people,
it's hard for me to even want to. Like, I don't understand why. But for example, if like Rick Smith, if he was to call me, I would completely flood all over him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I just can't reach out when I'm sitting in the darkness, and it just doesn't want you to talk to anybody. It just wants you to just sit here in the dark and suffer. And then it's just like, as soon as somebody calls me, which is why on the corner, I preach to everybody, if you haven't heard from somebody in a long time, you need to reach out to that person. And speaking of which, since I have the audience here, and I never do this, but I'm going to do this. We have a regular in the chat rooms. Her name is Kimberly MC. And she has emailed me many times. She's texted me many times. She's donated to the Pay It Forward. And I haven't heard from her in a long time. It's been a couple of months. I haven't seen her in the chats. I have emailed her and I've DM'd her, and I've not gotten a response from her, which is very unlike her. So if anybody out there in the chats knows who she is, or knows where she is, or can get a hold of her, just reach out and make sure she's okay, because it's been far too long. And these are my people, and I worry about my people. So It's a side note. Sorry to derail like that, but it just
hope everything's good with her.
I hope so too.
So I mean, I too fall into even the past couple of weeks with some shit that's going on and stress. Like I've just been a dick, and I kind of fall back into that stuff. But find other healthy ways to get rid of it. Like the gym for me is like, I get angry and get stressed out. I just go to the gym, the gym is just one of the places where I put the music on and I get in there and everything else just goes away for at least that, 45 minutes to an hour or whatever. But yeah, man, to find something like that, but it is hard to pick up the phone a lot. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's because I have like the best friends on the planet that would ride or die with me. And it's just like, no, I'm not going to call them. Nope. I know. I don't know how, maybe I need a chemical. I don't know.
You're normal. You're a normal male at 50. It's fine.
At 50. That's right. All right. So Keith Shibley, you can be found on IG and Facebook under your name. The Mind Over Madness YouTube channel, Frontline Healing Foundation. Just thank you so very much for being on the corner, giving us your time. And it's been 2.5 hours. And I'm sure I could talk to you about another hour and a half on just whatever. But
we'll get you on the madness and do it there. We'll finish it up.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that so much. All right. So, you're welcome to stay. I got to run through a couple of finales and then I can talk to you backstage if you don't mind.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So if you would like to be a guest on Curmudgeon's Corner, or somebody that you'd like me to interview, or you just want to contact the show, you can drop us an email at thecorner@phoenixeod.com. You can also visit us on our Instagram page, Curmudgeon's Corner pod. We finally got that back under control, and we're doing some updates on that. Now for the important stuff. Suicide prevention and crisis counseling resources. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, seek help from a professional and call 988. The United States' first nationwide 3-digit mental health crisis hotline, 988, will connect callers with trained mental health counselors. You can also text HOME to 741-741 in the U.S. and Canada to reach the crisis text hotline. And you can also reach out to the apa.org/topics/crisis-hotlines, and that will connect you with a crisis counsel of anything that you may be facing, be it mental, emotional, substance, physical, gambling, whatever it is that you're facing. There are resources that you can find. And then last but not least, if you enjoyed tonight's show, please like, subscribe, and most importantly, share with someone that might benefit from hearing our message. And on the corner, you are seen, you are loved, and you are heard. We'll see you guys in 2. Have a great week and a great weekend. Talk to you all. Thanks for coming out to the corner.
Does it stop? All this pressure, all this panic, stop. Stuck inside these feelings that keep haunting me. I wish that I could find a drop of peace. Does it stop? I need love to come and say you're safe tonight. I won't let it pull you under. Safe tonight. Even though you feel the thunder, I got you, I'm with you. Keep on holding on to me. You're safe tonight. You are safe tonight. You are safe. You are safe. You are safe tonight. Defeat. Struggling, but I'm trying to believe. Fighting like a soldier, 'cause the battle in my heart between the light and all the dark.